Hello Year 10, me again, Mrs. Kahoot. Welcome to Lockdown Lesson 1. So, we're going to look at components of fitness. So, you've done this in class. It links to the components of fitness section on your coursework, which is section 2 of your step-by-step. So, basically I'll go through and then all the information obviously you're going to need to learn is going to be on here, and all the facts you will find in your fact book, and then obviously that knowledge can then be translated to be able to complete section 3 of the coursework. You should have your step-by-steps, so there it is, just so you can see. So this section 1, front cover, and section 2, justification of sport, these should not take you very long at all. It's this section here which looks relatively small, but the information needs to be correct, and it's about the quality of that over quantity, really. So let's get started. Basically, your first lot of facts you need to learn are the definitions. The thing is, if you learn the definitions of each component of fitness, then you should be able to figure out that additional information that's going to get you those 3 marks, those 4 marks, those 6 marks. So just knowing the definition is only going to be like a 1-mark question on your exam, or being able to state the component of fitness is only going to be a 1-mark question. Whereas being able to link that to a sport, being able to talk about the test, being able to talk about different types of sports performers that need higher levels of certain types of fitness is going to be important. And obviously for your coursework, applying that fitness component to your sport. So let's just get started. So first and foremost, cardiovascular endurance. You know, it's the ability for your heart and lungs to keep pumping oxygen to those working muscles for a long period of time, meeting the demands that the body is putting them under. The test then, or tests for cardiovascular endurance, you can do the multi-stage fitness test, which is obviously the bleep test is what you would know it as, but the correct name is multi-stage fitness test, and you need to know it as that for your exam. So 20-meter distance, you follow the tape, run between the beeps, and obviously the level increases each time. Record how far you managed to go. There's just some average results. Obviously you've all taken part in this. 12-minute Cooper run then is the other test that you need to know for your sport. For your exam. So you basically time yourself running around a track for 12 minutes. You need to make sure you know the distance of the track so that you know how far you've managed to run. In terms of performers then that need a high level of cardiovascular endurance, marathon runners, 1,500 meter runners, games players to some extent, you know, they've got to last the full, for example, a footballer, full 90 minutes or 45 minutes per half of a game, which can be quite tiring. So it's important that you're specific with your examples. You can't just put long distance runner. You can't just put endurance athlete. Muscular endurance, also known as stamina. Endurance is known as stamina as well. Let's not forget that. So some of you, you know, immediately when you say, what does a marathon runner need? People say stamina, but it's known as cardiovascular endurance, muscular endurance. So just like your heart and lungs, this is about your muscles being able to keep working for a long period of time without getting tired. So the ability of your muscles to not get fatigued, essentially, keep contracting and relaxing to allow movement. Examples then, again, your long distance athletes, so runners, cyclists, but also now we can get into the territory where we're combining a little bit of more muscular movement, so things like rowers. And then the test then for muscular endurance. You could do a 1-minute sit-up test, which is going to test the endurance of your abdominal muscles, so basically how many sit-ups you can do in a minute, or the 1-minute press-up test when it works. There we go. The titles are obviously the wrong way around for some reason on this. So 1-minute press-up test is going to test your muscular endurance in your pectorals, your deltoids, your biceps, all that upper body muscle, all those upper body muscles. And again, you just complete till exhaustion and record your result. And then there's a little bit of data there. Obviously, the data between males and females is different. We've discussed this before. It's not a sexist thing. You know, it's a scientific fact that we're biologically made up slightly different. And it is easier for males to improve muscular endurance and things like muscular strength. Speed then. So speed is an important component in many sports. 100-meter sprinters. Also, it might not be time taken to cover a distance. It might be the speed that you're able to perform a task under. So speed again, you've got an example of Usain Bolt. Here it says a badminton player producing a quick overhead clear may be too powerful to return. So this is that it's not just running really fast. That's not just what we're talking about when we talk about speed. However, the test for speed though is a 30-meter sprint test. So essentially you cover the distance for 30 meters, making sure it's measured out accurately and it's timed accurately so you get reliable results. Just a bit of data on the 30-meter sprint test. Again, most of you will have completed this. Strength then. So required in a number of different ways, but it's the ability to exert a large amount of force in a single max effort. On there you've got some martial arts going on, and you've got a weightlifter. Please don't get confused with bodybuilding and weightlifting. They're different. Bodybuilding is more like a hobby, whereas weightlifting, you know, it's an official Olympic sport. So if you're going to use an example like that for strength, that's what you need to do. Also, athletics events such as shot put and javelin, they require a high level of strength as well. There you go, you've got two different types of strength. So strength over a long period of time, so a rowing action, and then maximal strength, so in one contraction. Explosive strength then, that's linked to power as well. So give you an example of somebody kicking the ball or striking a tennis ball. You need to strike it with power. And then static strength, so being able to keep that strength in a hold position for a long period of time, e.g. a rugby scrum. So different ways to test strength. One way could be a 1 rep max test. The good thing about this is it's really adaptable, so you can adapt it for different muscles, or so you can do a different exercise. So here you can see a guy doing a leg press, so that's testing the strength in his legs, but he might do, for example, a bicep curl or a bench press, which would test the strength in his upper body, not just in his legs. So it's really good to be adapted. And then the hand grip dynamometer. So again, this is only going to measure strength in your upper body. You've all had a go at this. We've got one of these bad boys in school. So you start with your hand at the top and pull down. Bit of data for you. Power then. So power is a combination of strength and speed. It's important for explosive events like throwing and sprinting. And we're talking about over a short period of time here. So it's being able to do a strength activity but with speed. So you've got like sprint start, you've got a shot putter there. A weightlifter would need good power to get the weight off the ground. Test-wise, a couple of different ways we test it. Both, though, would measure power in your legs. So the first one is called the vertical jump. We've got one of these in the sports hall. You basically reach up as the highest point without going onto your tiptoes, then jump vertically and measure the difference between the two measurements. And that's going to tell you how good the power is in your legs. Basketball player, for example, would be a really useful test for them. You know, when you're taking those shots, going in for a dunk, going up for a layup, need good power in their legs. And then the other test is kind of similar, but the opposite way around. So instead of jumping up, you're jumping horizontally, and we call this a standing jump. Do not put standing long jump, just standing jump will do. You measure the distance recorded. No run up, take off from 2 to 2. Flexibility then. So we're talking about the range of movement around a joint here. So it's linked to your tendons and your ligaments. So the more flexible you are, the greater movement around that joint, the more supple your joints probably are. So really good for gymnasts, dancers. It is important for all sports because obviously if you're not very flexible, you are at a higher risk of injury. But if we're being specific about sports that require a higher level, these are the ones that we're looking at. Remember though, in your coursework, you have to apply all the components of fitness to your sport. So in what way, in what skill, or at what point during your sport do you require a level of that fitness? And you should be able to apply all of them. It'd be a very, very rare case that you wouldn't be able to. If that is you, if you are a very, very rare case, then just email me. And the sit and reach test is how we measure our flexibility. So again, you've all had a go at this. Some people are more flexible than others. Some people find themselves at a disadvantage. If you're particularly long in the body, you might find this easier. If you're someone who's got really long legs but a shorter torso, then you're going to find it a lot harder. Your feet touch the box and you reach forward without bending your knees. Agility then. Athletes with good agility keep their entire body under control. So we're talking about control here. We're talking about movement, changing direction with speed without losing control, without losing balance, making it look fluid. For example, a goalkeeper when they dive to the side, basketball player when they're dribbling in and out of defenders. So again, with some sport examples, you could be really specific to the skill within that sport. So I've just used dribbling, for example. How do you test it? Illinois agility test. So some of you really struggled with this one when we've done it in lessons because for some reason you can't follow the course. But it is pretty simple. It was invented at Illinois University, which is why it's got its name. Basically, you run around the course set out in the diagram here, and you time how long it takes you to complete it. This is one of those tests that you're going to need to make sure that all the measures are the same. Remember, for each test, really, you want to carry them out 3 times and take an average in order for you to know how reliable your results are. Moving on, though, to balance. So balance can be static or dynamic. So static would be holding something still, for example, a handstand, and then dynamic is keeping your balance while something is moving. So it's all about keeping the centre of mass over your base of support so that you don't fall over. And then we test this using a stalk balance test. So just like this diagram here, this is how you would complete it, and you go up onto your toes and try and hold it for as long as possible. Balance, good for any sport, but if we're talking about higher levels, we're talking about gymnasts, we're talking about dancers who need to maintain control whilst, you know, sort of moving and not necessarily moving on a stable base. Coordination then. So coordination, really important, especially racket sports. This is that ability to be able to move 2 or more body parts at the same time. Wall throw test then is how we test that. So you just stand 2 meters from a wall with a tennis ball, throw with your right, catch with your left, and repeat on the other side. This is done only for 30 seconds and you record your result, and then you're going to compare it to the data. Reaction time then. Reaction time is a response to a stimulus. This could be anything from a starting gun to a sidestep. So it's not necessarily to do with starting a race, although a 100-meter sprinter would need good reaction time at the start of the race to react to the gun. You know, it could be somebody throwing something at you. If you've got poor reactions, you're not going to catch it. Ruler drop test is how we measure reaction time. So just like the diagram shows, a ruler is held above the hand and then dropped, and then you measure on the line. Obviously you make sure that you have 0 down here, and you make sure that whoever's dropping it is dropping it in the correct way and not trying to trick you. Data. And then it's just a bit of information on reliability. Now obviously you all do science experiments. Testing in sport is no different to that. You just need to make sure all the control measures are kept the same so that the results you are getting are reliable and valid. If you have to repeat something, you repeat it in the same way. Like I said, you do each test for 3 times just to make sure that everything is right. This is important as well, making sure your equipment is calibrated. Okay, so that's all the information that you need to know. In terms of how you should be setting out your coursework, so learn the facts in the fact book based on what I've just gone through, and then your coursework. If you've already done this section of your coursework, no need to worry, no need to panic. Just go through and double check that you've got all the correct information. I would start off by giving the generic definition for each component, then talk about how you apply that component to your sport, then talk about how you might test it. So each component of fitness should have its own paragraph set out in that same way. Think about quality over quantity. If when you're writing you can ask yourself why, then you've probably not included all the information. Why, how, however, when, and see if you can add any extra pieces of information. That will tell you if you've covered everything. In the meantime, I will be on Teams for you to come on and chat on my designated day. And I'll get back to you straight away. If not, at any other time, you can just send me an email and I'll aim to get back to you within 24 hours. Hope you all get on okay. It's been weird, but hopefully these will get better as we go on. Alright, cheers, bye.